Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk to you guys about skill cooldown. Now I'm going into timeline battle because this is kind of a rant video, so you know, if you're expecting some new enlightened fucking information about skill cooldown, or if you're expecting some guide to it, you're definitely not going to get that here. So if this is not what you're looking for, if you're not sitting down ready for kind of a rant, then just, you know, open up a new tab and go surf some Pornhub and just give me the click and the view anyway. But basically, I guess mute the video as well. Basically, skill cooldown is really fucking important. And what triggered me wanting to make this video was I had an interaction with someone that I play the game with, and I realized that as a veteran player, and I might be in the minority here, but I imagine that most other veteran players think the way I do, but I kind of take skill cooldown for granted. And I took it for granted to the point where I didn't even realize that there were players out there who don't have max skill cooldown. Now, I know that a lot of you will be like, oh, well, Cynicalex, I have max skill cooldown. Fuck, good for you. Fucking good for you. Great for you. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of players don't have max skill cooldown. And a lot of players, especially if they're new to the game, they might get the wrong impression about certain stats, and they might incorrectly believe that other stats are actually more valuable. You know, like, take for example, in the last month, there has been so much said about defense penetration. So many Reddit posts, so many videos, so many questions about defense penetration. So much focus on it that you would think that it's better than skill cooldown. Nobody even talks about skill cooldown all that much anymore because I feel like it's an assumption. You're assumed to have max skill cooldown. It's like, what are you, some kind of dingus? It's like walking around with your fucking fly undone and your junk hanging out. I don't know how else to. My analogies are obviously terrible and perverted, but aside from giving you a glimpse into my nightmare reality, seriously, like, I don't have a better analogy off the top of my head for the assumption that people make about skill cooldown, because it's like, you don't have max skill cooldown? That's honestly the first reaction I had when I realized that this person I was talking to, you know, great guy, but he just didn't have max skill cooldown. And I was like, well, fuck. You know, and so it kind of blew my mind, and I had this epiphany moment where I was like, I literally assumed that everyone, after, you know, a few months of playing the game, you just have max skill cooldown. You're in an alliance, you have 5 cards equipped, you have max skill cooldown. I don't even stop to think, okay, what level is your alliance? What kind of cards do you have? You know, skill cooldown is actually not that easy to come by on cards, and for better and worse, not all of the best cards are even referenced that have skill cooldown as a native stat. You know, most of the best cards these days, especially for free-to-play players, like the Drax card, the Nebula card, the Star-Lord card. Loki is one of the only cards that's referenced for new players that has skill cooldown. No one knows where the fuck to get the Zombies card anymore. So, you know, it's becoming more and more difficult, and yet it's still as relevant as it was. And, you know, as much as defense penetration helps with your DPS and helps, you know, crank up your scores and blah, 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 if you don't have max skill cooldown, that just fucks up your whole system. It fucks up your skill rotations. It dramatically reduces your DPS because you can't cast your hardest hitting skills as often. You know, it leaves your character more vulnerable, especially if the character relies on lots of iframes. Like, imagine someone like, let's say, tier 2 Carnage. Without max skill cooldown, I don't know how people get good scores with tier 2 Carnage. I don't have a lot of breathing room. I have barely any breathing room from when the 6-star skill finishes to when I can use it again after using the 3-star skill as a buffer, you know? So, I mean, some of the stuff you're not going to understand just off the basis of me saying it. You'd have to see me or see someone else play it in game, but this is kind of more of a rant. That's why I'm not really taking the time to show you guys this kind of stuff. And also I need to get this shit done here because the reset is coming. But yeah, it really, oh, I should have played that team. It really blew me away when I realized, like, oh, I just fucking, you don't have max skill cooldown, bro? Shit. And, you know, if you're in a high level alliance already and you don't have max skill cooldown, it's actually really hard to get max skill cooldown. Like, you really have to build it into your cards, but you have to build it in advance. If you don't plan ahead, and I guess this video could be summarized for all you fuckers looking to summarize this video. Summarize it as plan out your cards and get skill cooldown and don't be a fucking scrub. But you know what? That's much easier said than done, as most things in life are. So it just, you know, really opened my eyes a little bit to just how much we take for granted skill cooldown, and how, you know, if they increase the cap on it, or if they, you know, decrease the alliance bonuses, or if any kind of tweaks came to the game that negatively affected skill cooldown, it would be pretty fucking disastrous. Like, you know, when you have character builds, when you have videos of people clearing these bosses in X seconds, or, you know, flawless victory, whatever, fatality screen, all that stuff. Again, the people will ask questions like, oh, what are your cards like? How much defense penetration you have? No one ever asks, do you have max skill cooldown? It's fucking assumed. It's just like par the course. If you don't have max skill cooldown, we're not even gonna consider that this video was fucking in the possibility, in the realm of reality. You're obviously hacking if you don't have max skill cooldown. And such a premium is put on it, despite the fact that, you know, I mean, shit, I fucking just assumed that everybody had skill cooldown, you know. And I know that there's basically only two reliable ways to get skill cooldown. I'm aware of that, you know, your alliance and your cards. That makes up the vast majority of a character's skill cooldown. So I realized that it can't be that difficult to figure it out once you realize how important it is. But I just thought that it was an interesting phenomenon where basically, you know, for the longest time in the game, I can remember for months, everyone was just like riding skill cooldown like, you know, the only horse in town. Just in and out all day, up and down, every fucking hour. Skill cooldown, skill cooldown, skill cooldown. It was insane. And then it kind of reached a tipping point, and then people kind of figured their shit out, and then it started to switch to other things. Other things started becoming relevant: all attack bonuses, team up bonuses, buffs. Buffs were so hot for a while. The Daisy buff, the werewolf buff. When people figured out that you could do that you could transfer buffs, people lost their fucking minds. I'm not even kidding you. When it became mainstream knowledge, I remember that shit. People went berserk over that. And then cards came in and they fucking threw everything off. And then more recently, I mean, there was a time as well for crit rate and crit damage, but more recently, I remember also, to interrupt myself, I remember when attack speed had its day, and so many people were thinking like, well, maybe attack speed's actually really good. Turns out it's so-so. But now we're in the era of defense penetration as like the fucking king of stats to get. But yeah, cooldown time I still think is #1 by far. I don't obviously have the stats to back that up, and I would not want to try it out because I could not imagine playing this game without max skill cooldown. Like, it's frustrating enough as it is when I play characters who don't have a perfect rotation. By perfect rotation, I mean where I can do all 5 of their skills and be able to do another skill after the 5th skill without having to wait or run or kite or auto attack. So I mean, I can't even imagine that, let alone what would happen if I fucked up my own skill cooldown. So I wanted to do 2 things with this video aside from the rant. I wanted to illustrate for you guys how important being in a high or max level alliance is. Because if you guys didn't know already, the alliance bonus is massive. It's 14% skill cooldown applied to all modes, and it might actually get higher with the next update if they update alliance bonuses. So that's really great. That would put less pressure on skill cooldown from cards. But 14% out of 50 is really not that much, because if you guys don't know, 50% is the max for skill cooldown. 50% is the max for skill cooldown or reduced cooldown duration, the same as it is for ignore defense. As you can see, my Doctor Strange actually has more than 50% ignore defense, which is defense penetration, but because I'm over 50%, it just rounds it to 50 exactly. That's why I try to get 36% on all of my characters, because I know there's 14% more coming from my alliance. But aside from that 14% you get from being in a max level alliance, besides that, you also get whatever percentage from your cards. And this is what I wanted to kind of illustrate with you guys today from a personal point of view. So we had the card video, we had the Mythic Disappointment video. If you guys haven't checked that out, you can do so. But it kind of made me realize something. So I re-rolled another Star-Lord card, and I got one that's pretty close to what I had before, except it doesn't have skill cooldown this time. But it's got max HP, which is still nice. It's got all defense and all attack. It's a 5-level card, so it's got pretty high numbers on defense, penetration, and crit rate. Honestly, guys, I really want to equip this card. This card is dope. Getting an extra 10% defense penetration is actually really good. Okay, and I have a shitty card slot that I could totally overwrite. It's this one right here. It's this fucking coked out captain fucking, I don't know what he's, captain of the fucking Colombian drug trade apparently. I don't know, he looks drugged the fuck out in this picture. But I really want to overwrite this card because this card sucks balls. Physical attack, attack speed, recovery rate, energy attack. Okay, let me rephrase. This card sucks balls for me. Okay? All of my other cards are way better than this. But this card is actually more valuable to me at this point than that Star-Lord card because of the 8% skill cooldown. How fucking mind-blowing is that? 8%. Okay, so this card, if you summarize the stats, it's got 8% cooldown time, and it's got about 5.5% all attack. Let's just say 5.5% all attack. So remember, 5.5% all attack and 8% skill cooldown. Compare that to 6% all attack, 10% defense penetration, 10% crit rate, 5% max HP, and 5% all defense. That's fucking insane. There's no way. This card kills that card. But that 8% skill cooldown that I can't make up in any other way. If I unequip that card, my skill cooldown drops from 28% to 20%. That 8% adds us 1.5 seconds. Just under 1.5 seconds. About 1 second and a third. It adds more than a second to my attacks in terms of wait time. That will fuck up a lot of my rotations. That means Doctor Strange is vulnerable for more than 1 second. You know, that means Carnage has an extra second that I have to stall for with his 3-star skill that I have to timing for. That means Elsa has an extra second. Instead of just 1 second where she's vulnerable, she's not going to be vulnerable for 2 seconds when I'm trying to clear speed AB. And this just cascades to all my characters. Now, yeah, this is just a basic kind of duh moment and reflection of how important good cards are. You know, I would much rather spend 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 crystals on cards than on mega rank up tickets, because at the end of the day, the mega rank up ticket's going to be good for one character versus cards which are good for all 99 fucking or 96 characters that we have. Now, there are certain cases where that does change. There are certain exceptions. You know, if I could have used a mega rank up ticket on Doctor Strange, or I used one on someone like Carnage, those characters help very dearly, and they lift a lot of weight in specific modes where it's important to have certain characters: Alliance Battle, Shadowland, World Boss. And so there are certain exceptions, but overall cards are just so important. But even more so than just cards, how fucking crucial is skill cooldown. It blows my mind. And so I just wanted to kind of rant this out for you guys and get this off, because it just surprised me that I had lost even the perception of the fact that people start off with 0 skill cooldown and actually have to build up to 50, because I've had 50 for so long. I know the luxury of being a whale lord, but also that it's just become not the focus of the community anymore. The focus has switched, and so I just wanted to get that out there and kind of maybe re-spark that conversation in case people were wondering why they're struggling. It might be because of skill cooldown, and if it can help some people out, then that's fantastic. And if all you get out of this was 15 minutes of a muted YouTube video, then thank you very much, sir. I appreciate the click. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Let me know if you still appreciate the rants, and of course, guys, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.